Hello and welcome back to another episode of Bamster's News. Today is Monday, July 15th, and this week we got Comic-Con going on to get started on Wednesday. But before that, we got a little bit of news for you. In the meantime, say hello to my co-chair, G-Talk.
I think that would be co-sofa, because I'm sitting on a sofa, not a chair.
On to the news. So first up, just something I was going to mention real briefly, and something I only just saw this morning when I was getting the news ready. There's a convention that's happening in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know. I loosely use the term convention from what I'm seeing here, but it's called Nerdcore Party Con, sorry. And there's a bunch of folks you may or may not be familiar with online that do YouTube channels making music videos about video games and, comic book or action related movies, things, basically things that the core of nerds would be interested in. And those folks have decided to put together a quote unquote convention where there's going to be live music and it's going to be like an all night party, I guess. They're only selling 100 tickets. The tickets are $60 a person, and it'll be on August 3rd in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, if you're wondering who it is that's going to be there, some of the names, like I said, if you're familiar with any of these folks, some of these names may sound familiar. JT Music, Rocket Gaming, Nerd Out, which is a trio of guys, Dan Bull, Neebs Gaming, Fable, Divide, Daddy Fat Snaps, and so many more. So if you catch any of this music, if you watch any of these videos, a lot of this stuff is actually really good. I kind of have been checking out. There's a few names on the list here I haven't seen, but there's some of these guys I listen to kind of on a semi-regular basis.
So a whole bunch of bands will show up and play music, but the whole take in the door will be $6,000. This doesn't sound like it'll be profitable.
I don't know about all that. I'm assuming that they're also going to be selling, probably snacks and drinks or food and drinks, hopefully, possibly for folks who are there. But I don't know anything about that. So they're only selling 100 tickets. So yeah, you're right about that. But the overall, and with all of the folks that are showing up here, it was something like, I think it was 18 plus different, groups, folks that make music on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, it's not a huge haul, that's for sure.
Although the reason why I compare it, mention, what is the take at the door is because that might be old style, that might be passé. I'm old. It used to be that performers were paid based on the door, and then the venue would earn their money based on the bar. It means the more people come in, the more money is available for the performers. The rest is irrelevant for that. But it might be they don't do it that way. It might be these are just happy to show up and play music.
Yeah, I mean, this could be something where it's a matter of getting more exposure, but it looks like it's a 3-hour event. It says from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m., and they are going to have, they say drinks will be available at the open bar. Soft drinks and water will be available as well, included in the ticket price, and there's a food truck available for you to purchase food as well. So sounds like there'll be a food truck parked outside, which I'm sure that'd be good business for the food truck.
Hamburgueser are done.
I'll tell you, they food trucks have come a long way. You can get some really good food on some food trucks nowadays.
Oh, I'll believe you. We don't have food trucks here, but I'll believe you.
Did you see the movie Battleship?
I did several times. I even used it to demo stuff. It's an awesome movie.
Wow, really?
Yeah, there's a part where they shoot and there's a lot of bass, and that is really good for demoing tactile transducers.
Okay, so it's not that you thought the movie was awesome; it's that you thought the sound from the sound effects was awesome.
Yeah, when they shoot at each other, spaceship, ship. Yeah, definitely.
Well, maybe Newline will be able to hook you up with a new soundtrack because it looks like they're going to make a Space Invaders movie.
Space Invaders in the air. Sorry, that's a late 90s song. Actually, that might be early 2000s.
I don't know. Didn't we get something like this with what was that movie with Adam Sandler, Pixels?
Possibly. I think there's Space Invaders in that one.
Yeah. Why do I have a feeling that might still be a better Space Invaders movie than what we end up getting? I don't know. My bar is pretty low when it comes to this stuff.
Well, I did hear they were trying to get Jar Jar Abrams to do the Space Invaders movie.
Oh, okay. So there'll be all kinds of reflections and lens flares off of the ships. So you won't be able to see them to shoot at them. Okay.
No, the issue is, you know how Space Invaders is 2D, right?
Okay.
That turned out to be one dimension too much for Jar Jar.
Oh, jeez, man. That needs the old ba-doom-ts.
Sorry, a Space Invader movie makes zero sense. I think Futurama did it best. There's an episode where they invade Earth, and the aliens' tactic is shift, move down, and then shift the other way. That's all they can do. That's their tactic.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we'll see any kind of humor like that in this. I don't know. Maybe they'll discover there's a pattern to their attacks, and then they can use that pattern against them.
Yeah, it's just, I saw somebody mentioning, look, if they're doing this, then they'll do anything, right? No, there are so many excellent books, so many excellent stories out there they could take. It doesn't have to be comic books. Please. Plenty of source material out there. They're just going back to things that they have reason to believe will make money, of course. But it's all safe bets. We need to see something a little bit more esoteric getting the AAA treatment.
Oh, what's funny is you're saying people are now saying that when they're doing Space Invaders. I said that when Battleship was being talked about. Okay, well, I guess let's move off of that into something a little more real-worldy. Have you been following any of the info on the upgrades to 5G?
Dude, I settled for 1G.
Really?
Me.
How did I not see that coming?
There's going to be a listener just facepalming the heck out of you missing that one.
Yeah, probably.
A listener. But tell me, what's wrong with 5G now? What did they break?
I'm not so much sure it's something that they broke as it is maybe something that they need to compensate for, but it's facing off with Mother Nature, basically. They're having a lot of overheating issues. The report that I was reading is coming out of Vegas, where the guy was saying it was like 85 degrees outside. And basically the way that the 5G phones are working is that when they begin to overheat, they'll drop from 5G to 4G because that'll take less effort on the processor, so it can kind of try to cool itself down. And they're losing that 5G signal because the phones themselves are overheating and then trying to compensate for that by dropping to 4G.
Yeah, that sort of makes sense. I'd be curious as to whether it's processing power or if it's signaling power. That depends a little bit also on how they made the chip.
I guess in the next iteration, hopefully they're able to compensate for that, or I don't know if they can put a different type of heatsink or something in the phone. Are we going to end up with phones that have fans built into them once we hit 5 or 6G?
There are at least 2 phones already with active cooling.
Really? Which ones are those?
Is it Razer that has one of the gaming phones? I think it's Razer and Huawei that has one each.
Oh, well, you know what? I should say that's not a big shock then. And you know what? Honestly, that's another point that they were making in the article too, is that, you know, if just using the phone and it's overheating in that weather and dropping to 4G, you know, what do you think it's going to happen when you're trying to game on the phone?
And there it is. I mean, 5G, the idea is that you can watch TV and do a lot of interactive stuff that's going to use processing power. So the things are going to go warm and run out of battery real fast. But I think, isn't it a moot point at this point? Didn't your country basically declare war on everything 5G, particularly by shunning the one company that actually has 5G right now? Yeah, I like the idea that they should go for an American company like Ericsson. You know, the Swedish one.
I know you're tired of covering this, but it's kind of an update to some stories that we have covered in the past. So G2A came out this past week and said that they would pay 10 times the cost of any chargebacks to indie devs whose keys have been fraudulently sold on their site. So Basically, if you're an indie dev and you can show that your keys were sold on G2A's market and they were, purchased fraudulently and you got credit card chargebacks and stuff like that, they're offering to pay back 10 times the money that you lost in that process.
See, that could, if this was real, and I'm saying it isn't, if that were to happen, that could be really expensive. Because, again, we know stories of game devs that are in the thousands of dollars in chargebacks per day, even tens of thousands. So, G2A, if they move forward with this, and if anybody picks them up on this offer, that could be expensive.
I'm really curious to see if this goes through, because the devs from Factorio have done just that. They've decided to take him up on the offer. So he says we had a ton of chargebacks and fraud issues in 2016 just after our Steam launch, with over 300 Steam keys of the game being purchased with stolen credit cards. With an average chargeback fee of about $20, we estimated the total amount of fees we paid because of chargebacks is about $6,600. We will be doing a deeper evaluation of our historic accounting records to get a more exact figure, but it doesn't matter so much now. So I emailed G2A about the article and their vow last week, and they're not exactly prompt in terms of dealing with the request. I have a list of all the Steam keys I had to revoke because they were purchased fraudulently, and G2A offered to check the keys. Currently, this is where the story ends. And so he says, it's been a couple days and, he hasn't heard anything back. But he has emails from customers who specifically state that they've purchased the keys from G2A and now the keys aren't working. So, I'm curious. I mean, just this one dev, that's, over $6,000. So that's almost $70,000 that they would be paying out to just this one developer.
Yeah, and it's only if more than goes through with this that's going to hurt, but I fully expect that we'll see G2A just find a way of not doing this. They said they would. They expected nobody to take it. Somebody did. Factorio called their bluff. And I would be impressed if Factorio actually gets anywhere near that amount.
Yeah, because I can't see how they could continue to do business because if they pay out one dev, they're going to have to start paying out the others. And there's no way that this is just an isolated incident.
And it's also, there's the thing, a lot of devs said they're not going to go through with it because it isn't the game developer's job to do verification on the keys. That's G2A's job. So a lot of companies have actually come out and said, we don't want to do this because G2A just should not exist for that matter, but this should not be a thing. So I think Factorio has kind of broken the mold there, and I still expect them to be the only one to do it, and that they get nothing for it. Well, talking of things that suck.
Yeah, that's about where I was going. I'll let you lead off with this one.
I don't actually know anything about it except the notice here that says, U.S. Congress sucks at Rocket League.
Yeah, I just put this in just because it was kind of funny. It looks like, so the ESA paired up with Congress's Future Forum to try and teach people in Congress about esports and gaming communities. This sounds like this is a whole kind of like a PR stunt kind of a thing to try and garner some goodwill with Congress with regards to esports and stuff because of the whole loot box controversy. But apparently people were watching folks in Congress play Rocket League and they all sucked pretty hard. Yeah, I mean, look, I've never even played Rocket League, so I couldn't even tell you what, how complicated the game might be to play, but they said they did pick Rocket League because they wanted to pick something that they thought would be easy to pick up and figure out how to play. But I guess the folks there just were struggling with it. I mean, look, different strokes for different folks. One of the guys that was even playing said that first person shooters were more something that he was used to playing. So as much as funny as it is, or fun, I should say, as it is to kind of bag on him for sucking on it, at the same point, I can't really fault him for not having any experience playing that specific game.
Oh, no, fair enough. And we've seen that as well. What was that? Aftercharge? Hypercharge? Something like that you were playing? And people came into the YouTube channel and said, "Ooh, you suck at that game." Yeah.
Yep. But to me, was I having fun? Yeah, I was having fun. I'll tell you this, I never claimed to be great at any kind of PvP shooters because I get my ass wiped in those things all the time. In other not really news, and I would say probably another I guess it's almost a non-update to a story that we've talked about before. The whole thing with Epic paying for exclusives. Not too long ago, Jason Kingsley, who's one of the co-founders of Rebellion Development Studios, came out and said that, they would need to, in his expression, bloody good reason to do an Epic Store exclusive, as in they weren't planning to ever do an exclusive deal with Epic. And about a month after that, they did an exclusive deal for Zombie Army 4. And, he says, basically came down to, business decision is why they did it. And that they would prefer not to do exclusives, and they do understand that that's how Epic is basically positioning themselves in the market. But he says that they're paying through the nose for this, so they're basically again, not a huge update to the story we talked about, but more of a confirmation that they are just handing out bags of cash to developers to sign exclusivity deals.
Well, I mentioned at one point I've been in a couple of presentations by Epic. Business industry things. And in every one of them, they have been repeatedly saying that Epic has a lot of money. Like Epic's employees just standing on this stage and bragging about how much money Epic has. So, please let them pay through the nose.
Yeah, they'll keep doing it for a while. They can't do it forever. But, and you know what? Actually, speaking of the Epic Game Store, I believe Torchlight is free on the Epic Game Store right now. So, you can go get yourself a free game if you have the Epic launcher installed.
Nice. Actually, that one does remind me, not the last bit, but the Epic Store paying through the nose for exclusivity thing reminds me of one that came up recently. Do you remember the Weather Factory people that you had on some time ago?
Yeah, that was for the Cultist Simulator, right?
Yes. Now, they had a deal not with Epic, but with the Humble store, where Humble went in and said, yeah, we'll guarantee some things, and here's some money, etc. And they recently came out, Weather Factory, and said that deal was good up until if they sold more than 63,000 copies, I think it was. Number's not that important. But that they were happy they did it. They sold, 250,000 copies. So they would have gotten more money if they didn't take the deal. But at the same time, that deal offered them a safety net and emotional support, right? Because it's basically saying, you're not going to go bankrupt from releasing this game. And there is something to what Epic is doing that's a little bit the same. Go out and say, here's a lot of money. You are now insulated from issues as long as you meet the basic deal. Go ahead and make your game. Relax and make your game. And I think if Epic goes out, not necessarily buying absolute exclusivity, but if they went out and bought timed exclusivity to a lot of indie games, I would love to see that, because that means those indie devs get a safety net under them, the way that Humble had given, for example, Weather Factory and Cultist Simulator.
I prefer to have the choice of where I'll have those games, but I get why they would want to sell them on the Epic Store and why they would take that cash and have that safety net. So I wish that the exclusivity deals weren't for so long. In some cases we've seen them be 6 months or a year, and to me that's far too long for an exclusivity deal. But of course, that's to Epic's advantage.
No, 6 months is perfectly okay. That's not a headache. Sorry. That's my view of it. The one place where I have issues with it, and I don't even necessarily game on these platforms, but I'm a Mac user. I do like to have some of my games on Mac. Epic doesn't really support most games that end up on the Epic Store. Does not get Mac support. Even we've seen some of the recent ones that have been in the news have had their Mac and Linux support removed by going onto the Epic Store. That's the one thing that irritates me. I think people who play on those platforms should absolutely also have the access, and Steam has been doing a lot of work on making sure they have access to games. And Epic is kind of sort of taking that away. So they're damaging part of the player base, really, by taking games away from them. At the very least, they need to fix that.
All right, that has been all the news that we deemed worthy to bring to the table today from this past weekend and the end of last week. So enjoy your week as it goes, and as always, like is much appreciated. Comment if you guys have anything or any questions or any suggestions. We're more than willing and happy to respond to those, and a subscription if you dare.
Yeah, that was everything, so ciao.